Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever folks are joining us from. Just letting you all know we're going to be starting here in a few minutes. Thanks to those folks who are already here. If you take a look at just an option in the Q&A section, we posted an announcement about closed captioning in case that might be helpful for your viewing of today's presentation. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm ready. Morning. Jeff, if you could just make sure that you can hear me, that'd be great.
Loud and clear, Jim.
All right, good morning, everyone. Really glad to be able to join you today during this important time in your lives. I'm Dr. Jim Hujak from the College of Medicine and also the director of the UVM Wellness Environment. I am the chief of child adolescent developmental psychiatry at UVM, but I'm also a neuroscientist and devoted a large part of my life to how do you support young people, particularly transitional age brains, meaning those from high school through college, to reach the arc of their potential. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is what we can do as family members to help our students, our children, our grandchildren in some instances, thrive during this very, very important transition in their lives. So first, I want to share with you that I offered a similar discussion to all of the students about how to give them the strategies, the knowledge, the skills and attitudes to succeed as University of Vermont students during this complicated time. And everyone at the University of Vermont acknowledges that this year is a complicated year. And I want to tell all of you that we're doing our absolute best, every single staff member, employee, faculty member, to make sure that we provide your students with the absolute best experience they can. Now, I was lucky enough to talk to many of them last week, but really requested something that we're starting to do today, which is to talk to the parents and families of this incoming class. My goal is to share with you first what I shared with your students so that you can walk with them on this journey and support them with some knowledge and some prompts that could help them make the best of their college experience and fulfill their primary job, which is succeed as a college student, but at the same time work hard to develop a healthy brain. And I'll talk to you about that in some detail. Then I'm going to finish with specific strategies that you can take as family members to help your students really progress during the first few weeks of school, the first month of school, and ultimately the first semester and first year. Because I'm going to tell you, if you can help your students win those first 2 weeks of school, their life's going to be a lot easier. They're going to win the first month, win the first semester, and the rest of college will be quite easy. So that's what we're going to do today. But first, I'm going to tell you about my work. Not only am I a physician who takes care of young people, as I mentioned, but I've been doing genetics, epigenetics, and neuroscience research for the past 30 years of my life. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that because it really has a lot to do with this period that you and your students are engaging in, a transition from home to independence in college, and a chance or an opportunity for all of us to inspire the students to do the things that are good for their brain, help them do better in school, and help them develop. I'm going to show you how these things work at the level of the human brain. And then I'm going to specifically say what students can do to promote healthy brain development while they're quarantining on campus before they start classes, while they're on campus in their forever homes. And for those students who chose the remote option, we want to also be there for them. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. Then I'll drop into what parents and families can do. And then I'm going to end with what we can do right now. I want to say, in addition to the fact that I'm a physician, scientist, and educator, I'm also a father. I've been blessed with my wife, Teresa, to have 4 young adults. All of them now have made it through most of the college experience. My youngest is a rising senior at UVM, but I have felt intensely the remarkable emotional burden of dropping your child off to college, and acknowledge once again that that burden is made more complicated by what we're dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. But let me get back to my science, which is what we have shown over the years, both in our labs here and labs in Europe and my colleagues around the world, that what you do, what a person engages in, actually impacts the structure and function of your genome by turning off genes that may have been quiet. These genes then change the structure and function of key proteins in your body. Here I show a cartoon of the human brain. And those changes then lead to the way a person thinks, a person behaves, and a person's feelings. I call this the dumbbell hypothesis. You'll see my little cartoon for healthy brains in the upper corner of your slide. In the same way that if you've never lifted weights in your life and you put a 5-pound dumbbell, then 10, 20, and 30, and do dumbbell curls, your biceps will get bigger and stronger. My work has shown that you can pump iron for your brain. You can engage in behaviors that improves the structure and function of your brains so that your thoughts, your ability to manage your emotions, pay attention, focus, make good decisions, your behaviors, doing things that are good for your brain rather than bad for your brain, and your feelings are influenced. And that's going to be the core of what we're going to talk about, is how do you help your student pump iron for his, her, or their brain so that they can be the most successful version of themselves during their freshman year of college. Now, this is an incredibly important time. Here is a graph that shows brain development from 18 all the way through 22. And what you'll see is the brain gets bigger, 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 right up until about this time when it suddenly starts to organize. And the organization of the human brain is the period of development that allows us to reach our adult selves. Are we engaged in health behavior? Are we involved in self-care? Are we engaged in attention, concentration, and mood-regulated behavior? Let me show you how important this is. This is a video from a friend of mine, Paul Thompson. The bottom of the picture is the back of the brain. The top of the picture is the front of the brain. And I want you to pay special attention to the frontal, prefrontal, orbital frontal, and medial frontal cortex, because these are the regions of the brain for attention, concentration, mood regulation, and executive processing, academic performance. I'm going to start with what the brain looks like at age 8 and go all the way to 21, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21. I'm going to show it again. I'm just going to call out 18. 18. And notice how all of those key structures of the brain haven't even begun to fully organize yet. Now that's critically important because those are the key structures of the brain that you need to be a healthy, independent, strong adult. So building healthy brains is what this talk is about. What you do impacts your epigenome, the structure, fiber tracts, and function of the brain, and impacts your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Am I going to exercise today? Am I going to seek out proper nutrition, hydration? Am I going to prepare my room so I can sleep in a thoughtful way? Am I going to be kind to others, my family, my roommate, my friends? Or might I make other decisions, such as those around alcohol or drugs and negative relations? So let me take you to how you understand all this in a very simple pump iron for your brain kind of way. All of these things, daily exercise. I just published a paper that daily exercise, this is in almost 6,000 young people, improves the cortical organization of your brain, builds your hippocampus, improves academic performance, and diminishes sadness and thoughts of self-harm. I'm going to talk to you about mindfulness, breathing, and yoga, how music impacts your brain, the wildly important factor of brain development and sleep, nutrition, and relationships. And sadly, I'll talk a little bit about the negative impact of alcohol and drugs on building this beautiful brain. This is important because all of life is our ability to emotionally regulate our brains. In this cartoon, I've made in blue these areas of the brain I talked to you about before, the cognitive network or the task positive network. These are the areas of the brain that we need to take perspective, think flexibly, pay attention, plan for the future, delay discount or weighing future consequences. This is the part of the brain that makes us who we are as adults. It's in a constant battle with this red area of the brain called the emotional network, fight or flight, fear, pursuit of, pleasure. This is a much, much older region of the brain, fully developed by 14 years of age. And this higher order region of the brain, not till 24, 25, 26. How do we help young people who are fully developed in this primitive area survive and thrive so that they can develop the best brains that they have? How do we help them regulate the emotions of their brain? And the reason we're doing this at the University of Vermont is that there's a lot of role models for which and how you're supposed to behave in college that are all about developing this red area of the brain, the hippocampus, the nucleus accumbens. All of you've heard about the amygdala. What we want to do is learn how to quiet that region of the brain, help young people regulate themselves, pay attention, concentrate, get their work done, be joyful. Now, why is this important? My own work and work with my colleagues around the world say that when exposed to stress, this blue area of the brain actually gets quieter and smaller. This is terribly important because at the same time, the red areas of the brain get bigger and hotter. What we want to do is help young people be able to be in this task positive network and diminish the impulsivity of this red area of the brain. So let's break it down. What can you do in college is really daily exercise, mindfulness, or learning how to breathe, music training, sleep, nutrition, and kind and gracious relationships. What you do impacts your genome, the structure of your brain, and makes it a lot easier to be kind and gracious, pay attention, concentrate, sleep. So in our own work, we have shown that daily exercise 7 days a week, and it can just be a walk, a 30-minute walk. Start doing it right now. I'm 63. I do my hour walk a day. Why? Because I want to impact my genome. I build my hippocampus, and it improves my cognitive performance and emotional regulation. This is Art Kramer, the Vice Provost of Research at Northeastern, who pioneered this work, and we've replicated here. We've shown in the UVM research that we've done that students who get exercise 7 days a week do better academically, have better retention, and better outcomes than those who do not. My close friend and teacher in the area of mindfulness, a guy named John Kabat-Zinn, has pioneered the neuroscience of the breath, the neuroscience of mindfulness, showing that if you can learn to control your breathing, it impacts the structure and function of your brain and again, your thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. This is not a crunchy bit. This is high science that every major basketball team, every major football team, every major corporation in America is using now. We at UVM thought we should start this with our students before they join corporate America. Those of you watching the NBA now would probably know that LeBron James is the #1 supporter of an app called Calm, which is all about learning to breathe. And similarly, Stop, Breathe, and Think with Steph Curry. Let's teach our students the kinds of things that will help them succeed, and the breath is one of them. Similarly, what you eat impacts the structure and function of your brain. Here's our dear friend John Cryan from Cork, Ireland, who actually shows you the food you eat impacts the DNA in your gut, impacts the structure and function of your brain, and your thoughts, actions, and behavior. Hydration. The more you drink, the better your hydration status, the better your cognitive controls are in thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. The mystery of sleep, showing the profound impact of good sleep, healthy sleep, 7.5 hours of darkroom sleep on structure and function of your brain, your thoughts, actions, behavior, emotional regulation, academic performance. We're going to talk about how all of your kids are going to be told to have a roommate discussion with them right when they land at school, to say, let's create a room free of distractions that would impair our ability to sleep. My own work and work with my colleague Nina Kraus at Northwestern shows the beautiful impact of music and the structure and function of your brain and subsequent thoughts, actions, and behavior. I published a paper that violin training in 3-year-olds actually improves cortical organization in the areas of the brain associated with ADHD and emotional dysregulation. Start thinking about how what you do affects your genome, your brain, and who you are. It only makes sense. Kindness and gratitude. Our colleague Sue Smalley from UCLA Mindfulness Institute has helped us do this beautiful work that shows daily kindness, daily gratitude improves the structure and function of your brain, activity in your brain, and makes it an easier journey in life to manage our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So all of these things have been shown in world-class neuroscience research to help you build a healthy brain. A couple, cannabis, alcohol, drugs, do the opposite. No big surprise. Here, world's expert Alan Budney comes and teaches our students about the negative impact of cannabis on the structure of your brain. And remarkably, the insula becomes diminished in size and function. This is the area of the brain associated with procrastination and task completion. And alcohol has profoundly negative effects on these same prefrontal, orbitofrontal, ventral medial frontal regions. That shows why young people who binge drink or drink frequently have poorer academic outcomes than those who do not. Lastly, our kids' brains, the human brain, has not changed in size in 10,000 years. But think how much society has changed in that same 10 years. Our kids have ancient brains and they're living in a modern world. In the last 15 years alone, Generation Z and millennials have been raised with phones in their hands. They live in the digital world, and we're able to show you a correlation with the amount of time you spend on your phone, on YouTube, on Snapchat, on TikTok is associated with negative health outcomes. So what can you do? What can you tell your kid? What do you do while you're in quarantine? Well, it's really quite easy. You can do almost all of these things. You can start right now saying, I'm going to take a 30-minute walk every single day. And the days I do yoga or lift weights or compete, I don't need to take that walk. But just like any physician would ask any patient to take his or their medicine 7 days a week, we now know in my field the most powerful medicine for anxiety, sadness, and inattention is daily exercise. So we're recommending to our young people, start exercising every day, and the second you get here and even before you come. Do it in a socially distanced, proper way. Start learning to eat your nutrition in a proper way. Start to develop your college plan for how you're going to eat. Learn about yoga and mindfulness and the breath. We're going to share with you at the end of this talk, and I invite all of you as parents and grandparents and family members, please use my website and start to do yoga, mindfulness, and breathing on the same platform that your students will be able to use. And lastly, let's start to reward young people for being kind and gracious to each other. It's in their core. They want to be kind, they want to be gracious, but this digital world they grew up in is one of the most judgment-heavy worlds that exists. So we like at UVM to reward people for being kind to each other. Simple things. Walk or work out 45 minutes, 7 days a week. Don't take a day off. Your brain needs it. It needs it every day. Learn how to breathe. John Kabat-Zinn wrote a beautiful thing that the breath is so important. God never gave us the chance to control it. None of us can just stop breathing right now, no matter how hard we try. So we give across campus, on the call is our director of our Living Well program. We inspire students to learn how to breathe, 10-second breaths, 15-second breaths. All of you on the call know how quickly you can settle yourself. And then we combine it with movement mindfulness, such as yoga, walking, breathing, and mindful eating. Mindful eating takes us into the idea of nutrition. It's a hectic world our young kids live in, and across campus, there's the ability to learn, and again, on our digital platforms, the ability to learn how to eat successfully in college and sleep. Please tell your kid to have an important conversation with their roommate about the most important thing we can do is to make sure we both get sleep. Because if we sleep and we avoid things like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, and we exercise, we have a better chance of being successful as students. Here on this cartoon, you can see that college students need 7 to 9 hours a night of sleep, yet very, very few of them, in fact, it's only 46% get the necessary amount of sleep. Wildly important because college students say their sleep environment is not quiet, that they're not comfortable, and that their rooms are lit up. So 3 very, very simple things. Make sure your bed is comfortable, your room is quiet and dark. And then the most important thing, particularly at this time with the COVID pandemic we face and some of the social justice issues that are playing on all of our hearts, it's important for us now to learn how to honor relationships, not only with ourselves, how do we love who we are, how do we relate positively to our family, our friends, and the greater community. This is particularly true because of the role you're going to play in communicating with your own kids now that they've went on this journey, and having a language around kindness and gratitude, and knowing that kindness and gratitude impacts on brain development. It'll be easier for you to diminish the want to criticize other people on campus or other things that are happening in lieu of kindness and gratitude and positive messages. So what do you do when you're in quarantine? While you're on campus, just making sure your tests are clean. Well, start right away doing goals of kindness and gratitude with your parents, with your friends at home, with your new quarantine friends, and your new dorm mates. Take this kindness and gratitude practice with you everywhere. Right now, start walking daily. Learn how to walk on our campus in a socially distanced, safe way. Set and practice your breathing goals. Download Stop, Breathe, and Think, or Calm, or even use our app. And learn that just in 30 seconds, you can take yourself from a dysregulated, upset frame of mind into a calm and focused frame of mind. Start saying, I'm going to drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water a day. I'm going to set and practice sleep goals by creating a quiet room. I'm going to set and practice my daily exercise programs and add something to your walk. A 9-minute workout, for example, that can be done online. Avoid alcohol and drugs. Once you're on campus in your forever room, the first thing you should do is when you get in your room, if your roommate isn't there, delay setting up your room until your roommate comes, particularly this year, because it's not clear that every roommate will arrive at the same time. Honor your roommate. Avoid acts of microaggression by setting up your room in the absence of the roommate. And then sit down with your roommate and say, let's make this place the place where we study, where we sleep, and we only have positive relations for each other. Don't diminish yourself, don't diminish your roommate. Then focus on winning the first 2 weeks of classes. This is my secret sauce. I tell the students I work with, get up early for those first 2 weeks, eat, pre-read for your classes, and delay partying in any form until you've won the first 3 days of school, the first week and the second week. The students who don't fall behind, they will win the first semester. This year particularly, have a safety plan for COVID exposure. First, manage your own space. Make a contract with your roommate that you're going to manage space together. And then as you walk through life, just be mindful that we're in a special time, and at least for this semester, we're going to be facing the requirement to make sure we take care of ourselves and each other. And then practice your kindness and gratitude with family, current friends, quarantine friends, and new dorm mates. You'll see this as a common theme. We need to practice with family because these young people have lived with you their whole lives. Separating from you, this search for autonomy, is a very, very important part of their journey to adulthood. So kindness and gratitude from a student to the family member and from family members to students, wildly important. And in both instances, trying to diminish negativity and criticism, judgment. Get your walk in daily, your breathing goals, your hydration goals. By now you've set up a great sleep room. So start to understand the importance of sleep. Add in additional kinds of exercise, set and practice your nutrition goals, and again, avoid alcohol and drugs. To all parents on the line, it's illegal for your children to use alcohol and drugs, but even we're mindful that students always don't do what's best for them. But here, we encourage you not to engage in things that are bad for your brain. Everything else in this plan is good for your brain. I believe in the enduring fact that our students are wonderful young people and they want to behave well, and we're trying to give them a recipe for doing that. And last, for those students who've chosen the remote option, we're going to provide you with remote ways to be successful. But interestingly enough, there's a fair amount of data that those of you who are staying home, that your room isn't quiet, isn't dark, and isn't comfortable. So set up your room, your study, and your digital relations to mimic your future on-campus life. And again, your academic goal, get up early those first 2 weeks, eat, pre-read, delay partying with your pals at home until you've won the first 3 days, first week and second week. Prepare your own plan for COVID exposure and safety, and start to learn and practice kindness and gratitude with family, at-home friends. In preparation for your new dorm mates, find out who lives in your learning community, go on social media with those individuals and friend them and relate with them. Again, walk every day, practice your breathing goals. If you went into a weight room and said, I want to lift 225 12 times, you wouldn't just go in and put 225 on the bar and start pumping iron. You start with very low weight and build up. Please start by practicing your breathing goals every day so that when you need it, you have it. Set your hydration goals, your sleep goals, add more kinds of exercise, set and practice nutrition goals, and avoid alcohol and drugs. These are prescriptions for well-being. These promote health. These prevent illness. We use them in all of our medical settings, and we also think they're a really, really wonderful way for young people to succeed. Now, what can you do right now, particularly during this tumultuous time? Well, you're the secret sauce. This is very important. Your students need to know from you, your kids need to know from you that you have the confidence that they can do this. That takes the form of you saying, you got this. I know you can do this. You can succeed. Encourage them. Remember, the autonomy to leave home and to start college is a journey that's very difficult for many people to take. But the kids who do the best are the kids whose parents say to them, you got this, whose parents aren't constantly calling them, whose parents aren't saying, is this okay, is that okay, is this okay? But instead says, you've been raised well, you're ready to do this, go win the first 2 weeks. Understand the importance of independence. follow the 24-hour rule. In the program I run, I challenge the parents not to call, email, or text their kids for 24 hours, and instead wait for their kids to call, email, and text you. It's probably the most difficult exercise many of you will ever do, but I heartily support you doing that. If your kid calls you, that's far better than you calling, emailing, or texting. I know that sounds profoundly unusual, but your kid will reach out to you when your kid needs your support. And if we are too aggressive about offering advice, asking difficult questions, we're likely to make our kid more anxious. And here, I'm speaking as a physician and the head of health promotion and illness prevention for the field of child psychiatry for this country for over a decade. Next, when you talk to your kid, use a technique called motivational interviewing. Instead of asking probing questions, what's that teacher like? What's your roommate like? Have you met any nice friends? Instead, let your kid guide the conversation and ask open-ended things like, well, what do you think would be best? How would you like to deal with that? That's important because the next secret is to manage your own anxiety and uncertainty. I myself, every time I left off one of my kids, it caused me very, very profound sadness and anxiety. Our kids see that, they feel it, they ingest it. The more anxious we are around with our kids, the more anxious it makes them about this profound moment in their lives. And then I ask you for patience, because by now most of you know that these wonderful kids you have who achieve the most extraordinary things in their school, in their sports, in their music, in life, they often save their worst for us. They often tell us only the things that are bad or sad or that they're struggling with. Please try not to overreact to that and instead greet those, this is too hard, this is too tough, I can't do it, kinds of messages with instead this encouragement and support rather than probing queries. I've been doing this for a long time, 30 years in my clinical practice, and I can tell you these things will help your kid transition. Next, and most importantly, we want to talk about other fine things you can do, like sending snail mail to your kids. We run a program that has 750 kids in it, and when I walk in and out of that residence hall, I see the long list lined up at the mailroom and how grateful they are just to get a card. This isn't meant to be an expensive act. It's meant to be a random act of kindness. Then learn about kindness and gratitude. Learn about the power. Many of you already know it. Many of you already practice it, but be purposeful with how kind and gracious you are, not only to your student, but to their journey. This will be a time where you want to be kind and gracious about the fact that they're going to a university during a tumultuous time. And I'm going to end by giving you access to our website so you can start to learn to practice each of these things. That's what I call What Now. If you want to go to our UVM Wellness Environment collections, in the very near future, we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of remote yoga, mindfulness, fitness, nutrition videos, and I welcome you to go to this site at go.uvm.edu/remote wellness and start to practice some of the same things that we're going to be sharing with your students. I know I use them and they help me control my own anxiety. And start building your brain now with these remote courses so that you can walk the journey with your kid. Go UVM EDU remote wellness. You can start saying, I'm doing this yoga practice or this breathing practice or this fitness program or this sleep program, so that you can have conversations around these things that will help them build healthy brains. And then remember, first and foremost, we understand that your children are the most important thing in the world for you. We take this responsibility very, very seriously. And please know that the uncertainty that you feel, that your students feel, and we also feel, and we're going to do our best to meet them where they are, help them on their journey, and want to thank you for trusting us to send your kids here, but even more importantly, make sure you understand you're playing an important role in what comes next. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing. Everybody, can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks, Jim. I've turned off your slides and just got you, your face showing up for folks to take Q&A. I opened up the questions, so if folks have questions that they'd like to ask, you can go ahead and pop those in the Q&A section. It is open now. As a reminder, we'll have some folks that are helping to answer some of them. Hopefully we'll get to some questions that are relevant to Dr. Hudjak's presentation, and we'll also provide some resources at the end for additional questions that we might not be able to answer at this moment.
What does support with queries look like? Some examples. Christy asked, what does support with queries look like? My roommate is horrible. I can't stand her, him, or them. The example of a support with query from MI would be the following. Well, how do you think you should manage this best? What kind of opportunities do you think you and your roommate could have to find a common ground? Is there someone in your dorm that could help you with this? And there is, everyone. The residence assistants are incredible, and they will help with all these kinds of conflicts. The problem is when we as parents start to try to solve the problems for our students who are not even in our house, or one, getting in the way of them achieving their own autonomy, which they need to do ultimately to succeed, and secondarily, making it much more difficult for them to problem solve because you're not here and they are. So the open questions are really in this broad bin of, what do you think we should do? A beautiful question about listening to some type of music while studying. Yeah, I've actually published on this using genetic studies that classical music, biobeats, binaural beats music, curated music of that form is very, very helpful for infusing calm. Sadly, in that study, I also showed that rap music is disruptive and not helpful for studying. Recently just did a TikTok survey of Generation Z, and 75% of them listened to rap while they were studying. And a large majority of that group talked about academic problems, not surprisingly. Any other questions? Are the kids going to have opportunities to connect in person with other kids in their wellness environment? Absolutely. If this is specifically about the wellness environment, which is the program I run, we actually even have a program called the Connectome, where our RAs are working to establish one-to-one by floor, by building, by community. It'll be the same in any learning environment that your kids live in. The residents, assistants play a huge role in personal connectivity. And as soon as the students arrive in their forever homes, this will begin. And it's really important because it's facilitated connections, meaning some of us are shy and some of us are less likely to want to meet somebody. We're going out of our way to try to facilitate people meeting each other. What if you do if you're not a talker? It's interesting. That's exactly one of the things that we're working on in this thing I just mentioned previously about the Connectome, is that we do some of these scripted engagements so that you just read something from a card. So it's far less of a burden for someone who is not a talker. But yeah, it's hard, and normal human behavior follows a very wide spectrum, and quiet, transitional age, college students, they observe, they see what's happening. We also don't want to push them into being something they're not by saying you should talk more, you should get out more, but give them a chance to win those first 2 weeks. And it's been my experience that everybody finds somebody. I have to say, I'm just going to add this. Having had 4 students go through the freshman year, 2 at UVM, one in the wellness environment and one not. She started before the wellness environment. It's given me just an incredible degree of confidence to watch now the over 3,000 students that have went through the community that I work with, is that these are fantastic kids and they really, really want to do well. And what UVM's trying to do is make it possible that when they turn around on campus, there's an opportunity to do good things. And I think we're pretty proud of that. I love the idea of letting the student go to do this on their own, but such great info. My student won't ever hear any of your prior presentation unless I push him. Oh my goodness, whoever wrote that, I'm so grateful. It's so hard, particularly for young people in this age group, to say, well, look, I made a video, that I've discharged my responsibility. This isn't a one-off thing for the University of Vermont. We're committed to continuing to do our best to meet people where they are. It's certainly complicated, but having had kids where the last person they would listen to when I would say, watch this video, would be me. So one other strategy is find somebody else to tell your kid to watch the video. And I'm not joking about that. It's a very powerful thing. If your child has an adult in his, her, or their lives that they really respect, you tell that individual to tell your kid, hey, check this video out. And in a very funny way, they'll do it. And they'll come back to you and say, hey, I watched this great video. And in fact, it was exactly what you wanted them to do, but we're smart enough not to say to do it yourself. I'm a public school teacher in Burlington. May I use these videos in our classroom? Absolutely. We'd consider it an honor and a compliment. What if your child tends to get extremely overwhelmed and shut down? Yeah, that's so hard. It goes on as a mom. I can usually see that and intervene. Not being there's a scary thought for me. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about managing our own anxiety and our own uncertainty. And also when I gave you a hint that when kids are at home, particularly teenagers are at home, they present a portrait that's far worse often than it really is. And learning about these dynamics, and one, being able to manage our own worry and not putting that on our kid, and 2, being able to say things like I said earlier, what do you think you should do? But as a parent, knowing there's an RA on every floor, and that these RAs work with the program coordinators and the programs that they're in. And also we have a wonderful Center for Health and Well-Being on our campus, and that there are lots of resources for young people to go to. And if they talk to their RA, the RAs will tell them that, the program coordinators will tell them that, and there's lots of things that they can do. Well, RAs not in the wellness learning community facilitate some of this for those who voluntarily want it. The answer is absolutely yes. During the period from August 24th to the 30th, the first day of classes, every day, I think it's from 3 to 5 p.m. or 3 to 4 p.m. I don't know exactly. The RAs are specifically working on just this. Should students bring their own yoga mat? Well, Jeffrey's already jumped on this. We'd love it if you could bring your own. We're going to have some, but the more you bring, particularly knowing that you own it, that you've done your own sort of cleaning, it's going to be superior for everybody. But yeah, we'll have yoga mats as well. Someone asked, did I give this to students? The answer is yes, but as one parent said, I'm not sure how many students actually came and watched it. So that's why it's not a one-off message. How does my student measure how these strategies work for them, where to double down? It's a great question. The bigger issue is getting them to start doing it. It's a story of habit formation versus habit reversal. Habit reversal is ending, the habits that you have that aren't good for you, and habit formation is developing the ones that are good for you. And the best way to do that is to start doing it and do it every day for 2 weeks. And so that's kind of why we encourage it. Someone says, does everyone get exposed to mindfulness? Well, no, that's not true. In the wellness environment, which I run, everyone gets exposed to mindfulness. But in the Center for Health and Well-Being, we have a Center for Mindfulness for all students. And again, going to our website, every student is going to be invited to use our yoga, mindfulness, breathing stuff. Because I don't necessarily talk to every student, that would be the kind of thing that a parent could say to their kid, hey, you should go to that website and learn how to breathe. I know that sounds funny, but learn how to breathe mindfully. Said, will students hear this? No, they've already heard it or had the opportunity to hear it. I'm sorry about that if they didn't go. How do you think not having a traditional freshman orientation will impact incoming first years this year? Some will be on campus for just 2 days before starting classes. Many don't know anyone. I can only speak for how hard I'm working to make sure the moment the students come into our world that we're working on connecting them with their roommates, with their floor members, with, their dorm mates, and we're doing this in classes, and we're doing it virtually, and we're doing it in person. And I gotta say, even though I can only speak for my program, I can say I'm pretty much sure it's true for everybody. To answer your question, what's the impact gonna be? I don't know. I wish I did, and we're doing research on it, but I don't know. This question, will the gyms be open? The in-resident hall gyms will not be open. The campus recreation gyms and campus recreation programs are open, and they're quite terrific. Is it realistic that they won't use alcohol and drugs for the first 2 weeks? Yeah, it's absolutely realistic. There is a perception, of course, supported by media and less so from data, that everybody's going to be using alcohol and drugs during the first 2 weeks. And in fact, it's the opposite. The majority won't. And it's important for students to know what their parents believe. I like to tell the families I work with, no matter what your kids will never think you're cool. So don't try to be cool, because what they really need to know is what you think. And it'd be really clever for all of you would say, look, I know it's college, but I really would prefer you don't use alcohol and drugs those first 2 weeks, because I'd like you to really settle in and win. They would be with the majority, not the minority. Unfortunately, most people don't know that. Will the university be facilitating gathering connections outdoors? Yeah, we're trying to find our way. We have this beautiful group of people who have, completely changed their life. The Green and Gold Committee, who went from doing all the important things they do to being absolutely consumed with crafting these kinds of experiences for their students. So I can tell you yes, but I can also tell you it's a work in progress. Certain things, like in our program, we put a bunch of kids in vans and take them hiking. Well, now we can't put people on vans, so we're trying to find out local hikes and things like that. Will there be any gyms, weight rooms on campus? Yes, at the Patrick Gymnasium. Should I shut off all my kids' streaming apps? No, they'll figure out a way to get on them anyway. This would be an example of hoping that they learn to do other things instead of what the students will hear is, if you go for a walk every day, if you do some meditation exercises, add in a little exercise and get some sleep, they're naturally going to cut down on their Hulu and Netflix behaviors. Many of you are blessed. Many of you experience what I experienced with my soon-to-be senior, is as soon as summer starts, she's on those social media sites till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and thinks sleeping till 1 or 2 in the afternoon is normal. It may well be normal, but it's not a recipe for success when you get to college. So that's something you could tell your kid, is it might be smart for you to start to change your habits so that you can be successful and one place is now wasting a ton of time on your device. How do you handle the fact that cannabis is currently thought as a positive in terms? Yeah, well, we teach them that there's zero evidence for the efficacy of cannabis in treating any medical condition, in easing anxiety. The problem with what's going on the internet is you can read anything, and this is one area that it's really a major problem, is that there's things being published as evidence on social media, which just isn't so. We don't go too hard on it. We spend a lot of time emphasizing the positive, proposing things that will help you build a healthy brain, but we're very, very clear. If you smoke marijuana, it's not good for your brain, and provide them the evidence for it. Any tips for college athletes on how to exceed? You know, it's wonderful. College athletes succeed because they're so dang busy that a lot of the stuff that distracts non-college athletes into wasting many, many hours of their day are absented. We have many freshman athletes in our environment every year, and their coaches, their academic advisors, and the environment all say the same thing, is follow the same recipes that we gave you above and you'll be successful. And again, win those first couple weeks. I can't emphasize when you're going through transitions, or winning the first couple of weeks is a secret. How will they know to sign up for violin classes? This is specifically, I suppose, the wellness environment, which is again the program I run, and they will know in the weekly newsletter that we send up and postering in their residence halls. Do you visit learning communities throughout the year? I visit mine, the WE community, and I also visit the Honors College community, but our team is more than willing to talk to anybody on campus. Do you have information, recommendations for kids managing information overload? It's interesting, yeah, we do. Diminish the information overload you get from your social media platforms, and for those first 2 weeks, devote them to the academic effort. It's interesting because our kids have sort of been trained to exist in an information overload environment. So it's not that they can't handle it, we just need to switch what they're doing. Do you have any more information on how they will be able to, again, if you're in the wellness environment, you'll learn, your kid will be learning all this in the next days, how to be part of the research projects. My child assures me that given the vast array of choices, he'll make good nutritional decisions. I'm not convinced. What opportunities exist to help students make good nutritional choices? Well, at the UVM dining communities work really, really hard to make sure that good choices are there. But again, the individual is going to have to make up his, her, or their mind. I work very hard with UVM dining, and they do make a very good point to me that we have all these healthy living choices and healthy dining choices. They really do. They're quite fantastic. But if a kid wants his chicken nuggets, he's going to get his chicken nuggets. So it has a lot to do with education, has a lot to do with peer relations, and they're going to learn a lot about all of these things by nature of being here. How will kids know that opportunities are available and make connections to others if they chose not to be? Well, we send emails, and this will give you a sense of your, not your own child, but the world we live in. We found that our students only like to open emails about 30% of the time. Maybe it'll be different because of this era of COVIDity, but they will know about opportunities by postering around campus. It's a very powerful way, and as you note, things like Instagram stories, Snapchat, and TikTok, which we even use a little bit, are also other ways. Suffice it to say, we work really, really hard to make sure that students know those choices are out there. The fact is that students often don't hear it or don't experience that these choices are there. That would be the kind of thing that as a parent you would feel comfortable about talking about rather than feeling overbearing. It's just to say open-ended things like, hey, you should take advantage of the Living Well programs on breathing, on mindfulness, on, Center for Health and Wellbeing or Living Well. They have, I don't mean to cross lines here. Encourage them to reach out. this probably come up with some frequency or may come up, that a prospective roommate is not coming due to COVID-19. She's by herself. In many ways, the parents and students have a lot of concerns about living alone or living with roommates. Our experience is that neither is better or worse, and that it's the adjustment that's most important, those 2 weeks. And again, even if your child is alone in a room, she or there will be pulled out and incentivized for social interactions. So from my point of view, if she ended up in a room by herself, it would be a lot easier for her to establish good sleep space, good study space, and good relation space. So thank you for that. What are the most important things I can do? There's a question from a student, which I deeply appreciate, because the student is embodying what I know to be true. Students are already worried about their parents. And this particular question says, what are the most important things I can do to ease the stress my parents have? And again, I covered this with the students, and that's by you as a student saying to your parents, I got this. You raised me to do this. I'm ready to do this. And then add in, I'm going to win the first 2 weeks of school, and I'm not going to make bad decisions. If you say that to your parents, when they stop crying, they'll give you a big hug and kick you out the door. Dropping off my daughter and flying the next day, yeah, I wouldn't. And the question is, should I postpone contacting her? Absolutely, I wouldn't contact her. I'd wait for her to contact you. She will. She will. Any neuroscience in the separation of twins with regard to your overview? Well, oddly, I have a research lab in the Netherlands at the Free University with Red Boomsma. I've been following 100,000 twins, 50,000 pairs for their lives. And we've actually done this, and there's no negative towards separating them or keeping them together. I don't want to give you any sense that one is better than the other, but since one is already going to school somewhere else, please know they'll both fly, they'll both flourish. That'll be good. Their twin status isn't going to affect that. Specifics on how children's mental health will be attended to by UVM when they're in isolation, when they'll be allowed out. I think there's some confusion about what isolation is versus quarantining. We're taking quarantining very seriously. The director of the Center for Health and Wellbeing and Living Well is actually on this call. We're making it very clear and very obvious to all students that any help they need, that they know how to get it. Some of the appointments obviously will be virtual or remote because a lot of telemedicine and teletherapy and telesupport has taken place of in-person visits for obvious reasons. There are studies in this generation points to saying weed is useful and helpful. I would just go to PubMed, type in your search engine, PUBMED, and then write in cannabis. That is peer-reviewed high science, and peer-reviewed high science, you won't find any evidence that weed is helpful. Unfortunately, open source publications, you'll find a lot. So I would just ask you to read the work of Budney, B-U-D-N-E-Y, first name Alan. And if you can remember Alan Budney, he's written beautifully on this subject. Does we program work with the Honors College for all age college students, or did they have to designate? We have a dual citizenship program with the Honors College, so we don't work with all. It would just it'd be daunting. Our daughter's just beginning school. Oh, I'm very sad. I do think, given her experience, that it would be useful to reach out to the Center for Health and Wellbeing ahead of time and establish a relationship just so that she'll have someone to talk to. It may well be, as you doubtless know, that people deal with loss differently, and it's a really important thing not to force somebody to accept more care than they need. And given your knowledge of your child and what she's just went through, you have to be, I guess, a little bit more vigilant, but the same rules would apply. Let her reach out to you. Is it bad? Is it bad to cry when you drop them off? I think it's best to do your best not to cry in front of your child. But the rest of the question is, should I fake being happy? No, you don't have to fake being happy. You could tell them but in this kindness and gratitude world, just say to them, this is hard for me because I'm saying goodbye to you. I'm not going to have you in my life every day, not because I don't think you're going to be successful here, and not because I don't want you to have a great time. And all parents, I certainly use this myself, I would say this is more about me than about you. And you go ahead and succeed, and I'll be happy for you. Will there be guided yoga, mindfulness opportunities on campus? That's yes. I think Jeffrey is calling it into this. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ojak, for all of your time, and thank you all for the great questions. We've done our best to try to answer many of them. I posted some links here for some other places you can go to get more information. So thank you so much for being here, and there will be this will also be made available on the link that I think we can post here of all the presentations that have happened, so you can go and see any of the presentations that have been given. I'm actually going to put that link again here for everyone to see. Let me see if I can put that in there. So there you go, and you can see all previous programs like this one, the new student program site. So that concludes our session for today, and everyone have a good week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.